Hello, everyone. Welcome to another study group of Allan Kardec Spiritist Group of New Zealand. In this, starting our season of holiday season in New Zealand, and this week being the week of Christmas, and so we felt very appropriate to do a little bit of a replay of this. I wouldn't call it a lecture. I would say it's more like a presentation of some material that is being researched about Christmas and the importance of the birthday boy, Jesus Christ, to us Spiritists. So this is going to be our last meeting for this year. Then we're going to have a break between Christmas and New Year's. And we're going to come back on the second week of January, the 12th of January, with another lecture about New Year's, New Life. This pre-recorded lecture. And then we're going to start our meetings again, having them in person in our usual place in 545 Parnell Road in Parnell Community Center in Auckland. But they will be online as well for those who would like to see them. Okay. My name is Mani, for those who are joining us for the first time. So as I mentioned today, it's a one-man band. I'm here on my own, and so I'm just at the moment just checking what's happening on Instagram and also on YouTube. I can see that YouTube is working, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave your comments there. I'm able to see it here. If you are watching, I'm just waiting to see Instagram. Seems like it's working. And if you are watching on Instagram, you're probably going to see a little bit different. But as always, if you have watched us on Instagram, I will be putting this presentation up later on a more agreeable term as well, because the format is not quite right for a live on Instagram yet. But hopefully with the new year, we're going to have new technology as well. So if you are watching on Instagram, just give me a heads up so I can see on the message there. And also if you're watching on Facebook as well, if you could give me a thumbs up saying that everything is good, then it's all good. Okay, I can see that Oceania already said that good evening, so she probably is hearing what I'm saying. So yes, we are doing this lecture today. This presentation today. And yeah, so welcome everyone. Welcome to be part of this this gathering just before Christmas, as people are starting to take leave, take holidays. So it's very good to have you here. If you are watching on a different time, you'll be able to even watch in your own time. But here in New Zealand, it's Wednesday night, the 22nd of December. So I think that's pretty much it for news that we have. And of course, if you like to continue studying with us, we have many lectures on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, and on Instagram as well. So while you are at it, you can always leave us a like, recommend to a friend of ours. If you have an account on YouTube, we really appreciate your subscription on YouTube channel as well. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers so we can add more content and personalize our channel a little bit more. So without further ado, I will go and do our first reading of the evening. Make it a bit bigger so everyone can see. And as always, this is from Christian Agenda by André Luiz, written by Chico Xavier. And so it's number 47, Entreaties. In prayer, you ask for a ray of light, but almost always you forget that you have at your disposal the solar focus point to help you to fulfill the sublime objectives. Your spirit supplicates a glimmer of love, while all around you, humanity awaits the manifestation of your capacity to love. You beg for the concession of favors, that enable you to collaborate with divine wisdom, forgetting that millions of beings are waiting for your willingness to serve in the name of the Heavenly Father. Your heart demands heavenly signs, and while in the wisest of the wise colors the flowers and the horizons for your eyes to see, you search for vain diversions and notice nothing. You demand justice for your personal affairs and daily complicate situations and problems without ever noticing that supreme harmony always rectifies everything around you through the intermediary of pain and death. You desire opportunities to grow for growth and ascension to higher spirituality, but frequently run away from the various degrees of laborious and humble work offered to you daily, considered by the one who is infinitely good in the name of mercy. If you are always entreating eternal happiness, yet refusing the resources enabling you, let's see if I can find this, um, enabling you to acquire it, what more can you expect? I'll read that last passage once more time. If you are always entreating eternal happiness, yet refusing the resources enabling you to acquire it, what more can you expect? Yeah, so just a little bit of reminder of for us to be careful with what we keep hoping for and asking for, and without actually looking at what we are doing in the moment. So, leaving us with this beautiful picture of a pohutukawa tree, the symbol of New Zealand Christmas and New Zealand summertime. We ask everyone to close your eyes if you like to, and keeping a positive set of mind, forgetting about the troubles and the challenges we might have had during our day, during the week, in preparation for these holidays, and taking the time to focus in this moment where we gather here in your name, God, to reflect the year that has been, the challenges and lessons that we faced, but most importantly, to thank you for our lives. We are so grateful for everything that you give us, that you put in our path, so we can grow and we can learn, so we can ask for help, so we can help others, and together we keep moving towards the examples that Jesus Christ left us, our bigger brother, our role model, the the great celebrant of this season, sometimes forgotten, but we are very aware of his importance and the messages that are left for us to follow. We also thank our superior spirits, the benefactors that are here with us, supporting us, inspiring us, and protecting us while we gather in your name. We would like to invite everyone to be part of this study session, be it here in New Zealand, in many cities, or in different parts of the world that are probably watching this in a different time. But the important thing is that we're all together as brothers and sisters to celebrate once again this Christmas with Christ. So we ask permission to start another Allan Kardec Spiritist Group of New Zealand study session online. Thank you so much. So be it. Okay. So as I was saying, and I think we are okay with Instagram. I can see that some people are watching there, and we have some people watching here on Facebook. So we are not alone. There's more. There's more of us around. Um, so as I was mentioning, had this presentation actually done about 7 years ago, and I did it once again 3 years ago. It's kind of a recurring theme, and every time I do it, I have a look around and I do. So it's more of a research instead of just a lecture. I like to think of it as more of a research. So, and entitled Christmas with Christ, as we can see, all of these different symbols that we have here representing Christmas in different parts of the world and different beliefs as well. So, yeah, I think due to the proximity of the Christmas holidays, we decided to present this theme once again. Christmas with Christ, and of course, it's always very exciting and a special time of the year for most people. Nowadays, is the chance to catch up with families, friends, and relatives, and take some time out for work and enjoy the beginning of the summer weather. Well, at least for us here in New Zealand, Aotearoa, New Zealand, is the beginning of our summer weather, and anybody else that is watching this from the southern hemisphere, and of course for our brothers and sisters that are in the northern hemisphere, is the winter solstice. So it's time to enjoy the snow, comfy weather, comfy food as well. But we all have good many reasons to be grateful and to celebrate. And we have been celebrating for thousands of years. So we can say that all these Christmas traditions and symbols, they are already installed in our minds, in our consciousness, and we already follow it and do it. But where do they all come from? Where all these traditions and different things that people do? And sometimes we do them just because they're part of what we do, of our tradition, of our habits, but we don't actually uh, know why we do these things. And where do all these external acts of celebrating it? What do they mean, and where do they fit in our lives in a way? And most importantly, and the reason why we're here, what's the meaning of Christmas according to Spiritism, in the view of Spiritism? So we're going to have a little bit of the meaning of Christmas, the origin of Christmas, where does it come from, all the inclusions, all of this symbology, and having a look about what Spiritism talks about Jesus Christ as well. So as the name says, it's Christmas. The meaning of it is Christ Mass. So it's a celebration, it's a mass celebrating, commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, and it's a widely observed holiday all over the world. Generally celebrated on the 21st 25th of December by billions of people all around the world. And it's a civil holiday, it's a public holiday in most countries. And after my research, I've seen there's only in 34 countries, there are only 34 countries in which Christmas is not a formal public holiday. But these Christmas celebrations, they are increasing even by non-Christians. So it has become an integral part of the holiday season in the northern hemisphere and in the southern hemisphere as well. So while the birth of Jesus is unknown, but is estimated among the modern scholars to have been between 7 or 6 to 4 2000 BC. So before Jesus was actually born. So 200 BC, before the year zero. The exact month and the day of his birthday also unknown, but his birth is mentioned in two of the four canonical or established gospels, the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke as well. So following a little slide that I prepared here, we can see that that's what actually pretty much what I said. In the early days, Christmas was not always celebrated on this date, and actually even to this day is not celebrated on this particular day, um, because there's not really an any documents that register the day and the birth of Jesus. The Christians have tried to come up with different hypotheses depending on the when they saw the star of Bethlehem. They try to nowadays try to find when that took place, and also trying to find out when was that law that Herod, there was an infanticide. Herod ordered the killing of all the male under 2 years old. And they were trying to find that. So it's still very contradictory hypothesis and to find out the actual date. So for over 300 years, his birthday was celebrated in different times of the year. Eastern Christians celebrated the Christmas on January the 6th, and the West did it in November and December. In fact, even nowadays, Orthodox Church, they celebrate in January as well. Um, so the original date of the celebration is in Eastern Christianity was January the 6th, in connection with Epiphany, which was the date that the three wise men or the three kings came to gift the arrival of Jesus with a gold, frankincense, and also myrrh as well. Um, so it was not only on the 4th century that Pope Julius the First, he deemed it appropriate to set a date for commemorating the birth of Jesus. And the night of December, the 24th to the 25th, was chosen because it was a date that marked the anniversary of the god Mithras, the Persian god of light. A further solar connection has also been suggested because of a biblical verse identifying Jesus as the Son of Righteousness, and also coincided with another pagan celebration, which was the Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a Roman celebration of the winter solstice, in homage of Saturn. Saturn being the god of agriculture, the god of the plenty, the god of wealth, the god of exchanging gifts as well. So what they did, they brought together different festivities that were already celebrated by pagans and incorporated it into the church, into the Christianity. So people would be used to it and started to incorporate that into their beliefs and to celebrate something that pretty much changed the history, because we are celebrating this year, 2022. Luckily, 2021 is gone. So it's a birth that divided history. There's a history before Christ and the history after Christ. Um, and the date was chosen because of that, because coincides with around the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, which most of civilization was happening, or the modern civilization and developed civilization was happening around Europe, around that time in the Roman Empire. Um, so, and that's one of the traditions that we have in Christmas. It pretty much started like that as well, because that's the exchanging of gifts. It happened as well during that time. There was a tradition of Saturnalia, um, to exchange gifts, and it kind of started with that festival on the. Um, I'll just add here. Sorry, I'm using this new. Okay, there you go. The inclusion of symbols. The first one is to celebrate. Why do we exchange gifts around Christmas? So pretty much one of the traditions that came from this time of the celebration of Saturnalian, um, and and it's a tradition that originated in paganism because of Saturnalia, but also some Norse or the Viking festivities as well. That's according to Ignacio Gotts. There's a book called Jesus the Jew, Reality, Politics, and Myth, a personal encounter. So he was explaining in that book that there's a lot of traditions that were already established. They were incorporated into this idea of bringing it to Christianity and celebrating Christmas, which give the name, of course, is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, Christ Mass. And so this custom was originated and was adopted in Christianity only in the 17th century by Pope Bonifas. And some historians, however, they believe that the custom came from the habit of ancient mariners and travelers when they came to the monks and gave them offering to celebrate the masses, so they would have a good trip. So another inspiration for the presents might have been as well from a very action of the three wise men or the three kings who visited Jesus after his birth, and they offered him gold, frankincense, and myrrh as well. So so this is why we do give gifts. Is of course is a time that we think about, presents, and living in a material world that we do is being very much monopolized by television, by all these marketing and publicity campaigns as well, trying to adding advertisement campaigns as well to sell and get people interested in gifting. Of course the idea is great, that you give something to somebody else, the gratitude and offering something to people. But the tradition actually came from this idea of the god of Saturn, of abundance and wealth, and offering and sharing their wealth with other people as well. Um, so another symbol that we have. Um, I mean, there are many more symbols like that has been acquired, like the Christmas tree, the Christmas lights, the manger scene or the crib, Santa Claus. So the next one that we're gonna have a look quickly, this is quite interesting as well, is the Christmas tree. So why do we put a Christmas tree up? And especially here in the southern hemisphere, we put fake snow on the Christmas tree, and it's very hot outside, but we want to be part of the Christmas traditions that originally came from the northern hemisphere, and we still have the Christmas tree decorations with little twinkly lights. And even now it's getting earlier and earlier, right? When you go to the shops in November, not so much this year because of COVID, but a lot of the people trying to convince us to buy early online, so we would not have any problems with the parcels arriving to people. So yeah, the idea of buying things, and also the idea of decorating the stores and all the streets. But the Christmas tree, it actually came, let me fix this here for you guys. um, it originated in Germany. There's a couple of different attributes to it, a couple of different origin stories. Um, some attribute to the conception of to Saint Bonifas, a missionary who in the 18th century he wished to convert all the pagans and the pagan cults that were happening around in Germany. He was a Christian, of course, Catholic, and he was trying to replace the pagan cults to the gods, the North gods of Odin and Thor. There was a big symbol of the forest was a big oak tree, and they would have many sacrifices. So they were trying to convince and to convert the pagans that they would be able to praise to God, instead of the god of the forest. So they chopped the tree down, and but then gave pieces of that tree to the pagans around, and they started to decorate their houses with it. Others say that it was Martin Luther when they reformed the church, in the 16th century, so much later. um, he was walking through a pine forest on Christmas Eve, and it was evergreen. So these trees were always green, no matter how cold, how bitter, and how green the the winter was. There was always greenery around, and he saw the stars shining through the branches and through the snow. So he thought it was really beautiful, and he wanted to teach his kids a lesson. So he took a little tree inside the house, and and saying that that Jesus' love was like the evergreen, always green trees. That no matter how cold, how dark it was during the winter nights, they could always trust and have faith in Jesus, because he was like that that pine tree. So this is why we put Christmas trees inside our houses, because of these ideas of trying to bring the idea of the evergreen, and the idea of worshiping only one God in the case of Saint Boniface, but also admiring the beauty and having faith of the um, um, everlasting um, mercy and everlasting love from God towards us. Um, so, and I don't know, people. we have a tradition. We put a Christmas tree up in our house as well. You know, we like like to talk. We are in our living this material world, but of course we have to and live with it. And but we have to keep in our minds, in our hearts, you know, our beliefs in the moral and the Christians traditions as well. But the tree symbolizes something that it brings happiness to, you know, all the kids that are in the house. And as long as we have that message of not paying too much attention only to the material things, it's bringing joy, it's bringing happiness, and remembering that this happiness comes from belief in the future life as well. Um, so another very important symbol that we I started to seeing less often. I know that in Brazil we can see it a lot, and sometimes here in front of churches we can see in New Zealand, which is um, which is the let me find the right, yes, that's the one, which is the major scene or the nativity scene or the crib. This idea, this inclusion onto the celebrations of Christmas started only in 1224, so in the 13th century, when Francis of Assisi, on Christmas Eve, and he had this idea of representing the birth of Christ with a staging, like in a real stable, the manger and the ox, and also a donkey, to, you know, and having the, and of course more things were incorporated in it, like sometimes you have the three kings or three wise men coming as well. And yeah, so in the 13th century, this idealized representation by the founder of the Franciscan Order was known throughout Europe. And of course, from Europe, it branched out to other places around the world. Um, and because the Nativity story continued to expand within Christian devotion even after Francis Assisi's death. And in 1291, Pope Nicholas IV, the first Franciscan Pope, so the first Pope that belonged to the order of the Franciscan Order, he ordered a permanent nativity scene to be in the church of Santa Maria Maggiore, the largest church that dedicated to the Virgin Mary in Rome. So and then from then on, all the different churches started to adapt to the nativity scene or the manger scene. So now we are, as we're moving along through the history, now we're coming to something that is a bit more um, current. The figure of Santa Claus. Why do we have Santa Claus? The Santa Claus originates from the image of Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas is was a very altruistic person. He would give a lot of gifts to, and not in anonymously. He would give gifts to poor people. He was very charitable, and and yeah, so the image of Santa Claus kind of came from Saint Nicholas, and the name came from the in the Netherlands, because he's actually the patron of the Netherlands, the saint patron of the Netherlands, and there he's called Sinterklaas, Nicholas Klaus, Sinterklaas, and that's in a just not only Netherlands but in another European countries as well. There's the feast of Saint Nicholas, and that's where the stars of the season of gifts. And Saint Nicholas was a bishop of Myra in Asia Minor. You can see his picture there, um, and which is part of modern day Turkey. And he reportedly made numerous donations to the poor, and known as I mentioned, the Dutch name Sinterklaas over the years, and that have been called Santa Claus in English. But this version looks a little bit different. I think we are more used to seeing another version, a different version of Santa Claus. And this version of Santa Claus is very modern and kind of very commercial as well. So this current figure of Santa Claus that we see every year is Santa in Christmas parades and advertising everywhere. This chubby bearded man, white bearded man, wearing red, white, and white clothes and black boots. He was made for a soft drinks factory. I should have blurted out, but everybody knows which drinks factory it is, by a Swedish artist called Haddon Sandblom in 1931. So this idea in this representation of Santa Claus is fairly recent, right? It's not that old, this tradition of Santa Claus, but nowadays it's the most viewed one, I would say. And it struck me that here in New Zealand, I don't really remember when it was, but I was in a Christmas parade. Um, and this Christmas parade, all the different, different trucks, different floats going, and people celebrating Christmas. And there was Shrek, there was a Shrek truck, there was a Disney truck, there was all these different things. And then suddenly came the nativity scene with Jesus, and and then a little boy said, "Mommy, which float is that?" And said, "It's Jesus' float." Which movie is he in? So the poor little boy didn't know who Jesus Christ was. So it is the celebration of Christ, Christmas, but still, especially in the places where um, the Christian values are not talked a lot, and not represented much. So yeah, it's starting to lose that idea of the main reason of the season, and as people say here in New Zealand, in many parts of the world, that the is on the name, is in the name, the celebration is in the name Christ or Christ. Christmas, the celebration of Jesus' birth, which is not actually the date, it was not actually the year, but since it was determined that would be the date, so it's important for us to take a time and think about that, because he's a great birthday celebrant, and he's not always remembered. Um, and it's extremely necessary to highlight the importance of Christ for humanity right now, as we've gone through a year full of uncertainty, full of fear, full of intolerance, and full of struggles that a lot of people go through. Of course, not only because of the virus, but also the reactions that the virus creates in people and in society in general. And what does that all mean in us here in this spiritist session, talking about Christ? What does that mean to us? So, yeah, we can see that on the inaugural work of Spiritism, the Spirit's book, Kardec he dedicated the third part of the Spirit's book to the moral laws. The third part is called the moral laws, and in one of the questions, on the question number 625, the superior spirits they define that Jesus is the most perfect example God has offered to man to serve as a guide and a model. So in the Spirit's book, we can see that Allan Kardec asked the spirits, what is the most perfect type that God has offered to humanity as guide and model? Jesus. Jesus is the type of the moral perfection to which man may, and woman, of course, may attain upon this earth. God offers us our thought as our most perfect model, and the doctrine taught by him is the purest expression of the divine law, because he was animated by the divine spirit and was the purest being that has ever appeared upon earth. So, as we have to remember, and because there were many lessons, in the New Testament, because when Jesus came, he came to give us the example. He came to show us the path, the pathway, the life, and the light in order to reach happiness, true happiness, and showing to us that it's we are living this life, the present life, in the flesh, in material life, but um, our happiness resides or lives in our future life. And the future life would depend how we live in this life. And that's the ideas that we should be celebrating around Christmas. the many different examples that he left us of tolerance and indulgence and charity towards others. Lessons like the one without sin can cast the first stone. If someone is smite you in the cheek, give the other also. Love your brothers, love yourself, love God above all, and love your neighbor as yourself. So there are many examples that we can see through, and he was the personification of the law of love and charity and justice as well. So we can also see that Jesus came to teach mankind. There's also from the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 1, which is called "I did not come to destroy the law." Jesus came to teach mankind that true life is not the one lived here on earth, but rather the life lived in heaven or in the spiritual world. He came to show the pathway to this kingdom, how to be reconciled with God, and to present these facts as part of things to come, which would enable mankind to fulfill its destiny. In continuing on in the same chapter, however, the teaching of Jesus were often allegoric and conveyed in parables, because he spoke according to the time and place in which he lived. He did not explain everything, but limited himself to offering only the initial part of the truth of many subjects, saying that man as yet could not understand the whole truth, but he talked about all things in implied terms. So this is when Spiritism comes to give us a new ideas, just like Jesus came to change the paradigm of the time when people still people still believed in revenge. People still believe in the law of talion or retaliation, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, which we just have to look on the internet, on movies, and that idea of revenge. We most movies that we watch or series is all about vengeance. So we still have that idea of finding justice with our own hands very much ingrained in our minds. So it's important to bring the lessons that were 2,000 years old or over 2,000 years old into this time, and try to understand that the revenge that we seek and the justice that we seek doesn't belong to us. It's part of a bigger plan that belongs to God. And the biggest example of that it was Jesus, with all the many examples that even through pain and even through not being understood, in the last moments of him being on earth, he offered his forgiveness to all of us. Please, Lord, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. So it will be not expected of us to behave like Jesus, because we're still far away from this level of moral advancement. But we have to start to keep that in mind when we have our daily lives, and not only in Christmas. Of course, we use the opportunity to think about it, to reflect, and try to bring the attention to the messages that he gave us. But every day, every day is a new opportunity for us to start to install that behavior in us and towards other people that are around us. Because, as I mentioned, this idea, of that were brought even before Jesus Christ's time, and now with the light of the spirits are bringing us understanding the new realities of our origin, where we come from as spirits, and that we are at the moment living here this reality, this earthly reality, temporarily. So we are, after this stage is done, we go into the next stage, and whatever we do in this stage will affect our reality in a different spiritual life and different reincarnations as well. So that will just bring a new light into the teachings that Jesus gave us. But all the very important message that we have received are already there. We just have to listen, read them, look at them, and try to apply them in the best way we can. It's impossible to understand everything that it is said, because we are still very limited in our ideas and our capability of understanding. So we have to understand, feel, and act, and then our understanding capabilities will increase, and then so on and so forth. It will be easier for us to act on that. So another little message from the same chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism. That is why we find within the law the principle of our duty to God and our fellow men to be the base of his doctrine. Love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. Adding this, all the law, adding this is all the law and the prophets. So everything that Jesus taught us is pretty much based around those this idea of love God above all and loving your neighbor as ourselves. And I know this is coming a little short compared to a full lecture, but I would just like to um, leave you guys with a little message that was given to us by Joana de Angelis in a book written by um, Divaldo Pereira Franco, and the message is called Atualidade do Natal, Christmas at Present. Let's remember and think of Jesus this Christmas and gradually get near him, analyzing how we are now and how we should be morally. Let's be aware of what we've done and how further we can get by investing on ourselves, our closest neighbors, at home, on the street, in humanity. Christmas is the constant presence of love and goodness today and today of all time. Do not forget that the evocation of the birth of the great Son of God among human beings is an invitation to allow Him to reborn within you and let Jesus speak to you again on the acoustic of our hearts and on the files of our minds, reciting the immortal poem of the Beatitudes. So yeah, a lot of little hints of nuggets um, of this beautiful message that Giovanna Giangeli gives us. So I love that part when he's saying to allow Jesus to reborn within us, because we always, we're waiting for the Savior, Jesus to come back and save us. But he was, everything that he was able to do, he did for us already. Now it's our turn to take the step and follow his steps and follow the lessons that he gave us, the lessons that he left for us. Of course, we're not going to be able um, to imitate or be like him. Just like when you go to university, you're not going to be like your professor straight away the same day. You might have to go through your university degree, maybe go through a PhD, goes to masters, goes to PhD, get a doctorate, and then you might be able to be like your professor, like your teacher. So, and then in the school of life, of immortal life, we are still in kindergarten. So we have to remember, of course, keeping in mind that Christmas is about, of course, is about the joy of family, is the joy of celebration of life, is the joy of celebrating our time together with our loved ones and our relatives. But the most important thing is to keep that message of love and treating humanity like brothers and sisters, just like Jesus did. And and yeah, especially times like this where we can see so much intolerance and so much exchange of ideas, and when people are not actually listening to what other people have to say, a lot of people with preconceived ideas already ignoring people or outcasting people because they think in a different way. And we are all the same, and that's the beauty of it, the beauty of living in a world where there are many people, and there's only one of you. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like me. There's nobody like anybody else. So we're all unique in a way. So we have to see that, keep that in mind, that every person has something to offer, and we're all connected somehow. So it's important to keep that the image of Jesus Christ, offering his graceful smile and kind manners, like he had to all of us, to keep that in mind in this time of Christmas, where we gather, we reflect, we think the year that is went by and the year that's coming ahead, and thinking of the possibilities that can be. So I just have a little talking about brothers and sisters, I have a message from my sister here. She wants to share with you. Thank you, Mani, for this presentation and for reminding us the real meaning of Christmas. Yeah, we all, thank you, Shani. We all know that. We all know, the many examples, many books, many movies, many people talking about it. So it's just a matter of us taking our mind and our hearts to the right place to find that. So with that in mind, I'm just giving you guys here a little scenery of New Zealand, New Zealand summer, the Pohutukawa tree, the New Zealand Christmas tree, and Merry Christmas in many different languages, and wishing you all a very good Christmas and very good break. And we are, as I mentioned, we are going to be on a break. If anybody has any, actually, before I say that, if anybody has any questions or any comments, we have a couple of people here on Instagram, and we have a few people on um, Facebook as well. If you are watching this later, you can maybe leave us a comment, and we can. Even though we're going to be on a break, we're still going to have access to our social media as well. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, you can still keep in touch with us in our um, email or messenger, uh, or any other ways that you can find us on the internet as well. So yeah, we're gonna get ready for our final prayer. If you don't have any questions, I believe we don't. So I'm just gonna put this beautiful slide here, and I'll remove myself from this here. It was not too short. We've been going on for 46 minutes, which is the general time of our lecture anyway. And I hope it was not too over the top with all these different slides, but I hope we can now take something from this today. So, with this beautiful view of the sky, we take a moment to breathe in and breathe out, calming ourselves and taking a moment to reflect on the day that we had and the beautiful summer here in New Zealand about to start. Feeling grateful with all the different blessings that we received, like we talked about in the first reading. There are so many different gifts that we receive every day. Sometimes they are not noticed by us because we're so busy thinking about our material life and our tasks ahead. But now that we are here in your name, surrounded by our spiritual friends, we feel so grateful. It's feeling harmony, and we start to take this opportunity to pray for those who are in need in a moment that we are going through, the hardship, in the material hardship that we had, many people losing their jobs, losing their hope. We offer them our prayer, our vibration, asking our spiritual friends to direct these fluids, this energy that we are feeling at the moment, this harmony, and spreading around, joining forces with other people around the world that are praying as well, creating a big circle of joining hands and thinking and feeling peace, hoping for a year and a planet more peaceful, more harmonious, so that people, whenever they're going through struggle, they're still able to remain calm, working on their patience, and keep going ahead, finding the best solutions for themselves, but also always believing, always having faith that God has a plan. And the plan for all of us is to improve, to work on our vices, diminishing them, and also working on our strengths, improving them. All the diseases will one day perish. All the wars and the struggles will stop, will cease. It only depends on us and how we perceive them. We pray for the victims of COVID, but also other diseases that people have been not able to be treated. We pray for those who are suffering mentally, emotionally during all these lockdowns and uncertainty for the future. We take a moment now to think about those who we know are going through a hard time, whatever they may be, physical difficulties, emotional and mental instability. Imagine them happy, smiling, feeling in a much better position right now because this is their destiny. We are all destined to be happy, to bask in the sun, under the mercy of God, because we're all children, all His children. We now take a moment to think about our families, our relatives, our friends, whatever they may be. This prayer, this vibration can reach anywhere through the power of thought, through the power of faith. We are all connected. We also now take a moment to think about those brothers and sisters with whom we might have some difficulties in the behavior, and leaving a little room for reconciliation and the possibility of coming together peacefully, leaving all the differences aside, compromising when we can, and enjoying life in this beautiful planet, in this beautiful life that we have. We're also thanking our spiritual friends that are here, offering the fluids in the water that we're about to drink, and also giving us the spiritual support that we are receiving at the moment with the application of the fluids in our perispirits, harmonizing and putting them in a more harmonious frequencies, calming ourselves down. When we finally go to our closing prayer, praising God for the beauty of this creation, this amazing planet with many resources, with beautiful fruits and food and water, the trees, the birds, the flowers. For those who are in the northern hemisphere, the cool wind and the snow, the coziness of their homes. We all have plenty to be grateful for. Give us the courage to continue on without complaining and suffering in peace and overcoming the struggles that we have. We also thank Jesus for being with us in person for the last 2,000 years, but in spirit from the beginning of the formation of this planet. We are so happy that you were born amongst us, giving us the examples that we have today. Let us be brave enough to follow them and help us when we are weak. We also thank the superior spirits, the benefactors, for being with us, and wishing everyone a very good Christmas and a New Year's and a good holiday break until we come together again in another Allan Kardec Spiritist Group of New Zealand meeting. Thank you so much. So be it. All right, guys. So thanks for being with us, and thanks for your company all this year that we had, a new, very unusual year. So I hope you and all your family and friends have a great time. Enjoy your Christmas with Christ, and we'll see you next time. Okay? Kakite, Merry Christmas, Feliz Natal.